Gentleman yields. Point of order.
Point of order.
Gentleman's recognized.
So I appreciate the gentleman's question, but let me put it another way to the witnesses. The reference legislation.
Mr. Ranking Member, I mean, a question to the witness would be someone yielding to you. A point of order, I'm allowing you to make a point
thank
of order.
you. Well, the point of order is, if you read the bill, it says that if you are a convicted felon and found and sentenced by a judge, then you would not be, that's my point of order, that you would not have service. You have to be a convicted felon and sentenced. Now, at the time the bill was filed, nobody who was a protectee was a convicted felon. But if those who are lawyers here know that once you are a convicted felon and sentenced, you are remanded the custody of that particular law enforcement agency for custody. I think it's an anomaly to try to say that the Secret Service would have to protect the felon in jail, a convicted felon. So this whole notion about my legislation, I just say to the gentleman, if you read it, it says you have to be a convicted felon and sentenced. Now, we're not there. The conjecture, you can do whatever you want. But let me be clear about the bill. Republicans have made a lot of hay about the bill, saying it's about former President Trump and would take away his security. That just is not true. The bill doesn't mention former President Trump, and it would not have affected security at this tragic event. The bill talks about any Secret Service protectee who is convicted of a felony and sentenced to serve jail time, and it does not take away security. The bill makes clear that when a protectee is sentenced and remanded to the custody of prison officials, the Secret Service is able to hand off the prisoner in an orderly fashion, and that Secret Service agents aren't forced to become correctional officers too. That's the legislation. That's all it says. For the record, we can go back to...
The gentleman will need to get to his point of order.
Well, point of order is, the line of question is inconsistent with the legislation. And it does not say on that day, former President Trump would have been without Secret Service protection. He is not sentenced. If he's not sentenced, he will still have the protection. Plain and simple.
So you yield on your point of order, Mr. Ranking Member? You did. Okay. I want to make a point of order then as well. And, a lot of times we hear from both sides of the aisle about rhetoric and how rhetoric and the things we do in messaging bills that we do shapes discussion, impacts people. And first, my point of order is prison isn't necessarily a safer place. You can ask Mr. Epstein's family about that. And so to suggest that somehow you'd have the security necessary in a prison, I think is just not an accurate statement. In terms of, I agree with the Ranking Member that his bill did say that it would not apply in this particular case, but it's more about what we're doing and what we're saying at certain times that generates the attitude in our society. And so I just make that point about this particular legislation. I made in my opening remarks a request that he would draw the bill. But,
just have a second. I just wanted to make a comment. I think the chairman was clear that this bill was filed well in advance.